Hi folks, you're listening to episode 3, and today's anonymous question is about navigating desire differences, and this is something I see often in my practice, so I'm excited to tease apart this question and offer resources and different ways to think about this question and this dilemma that so many couples face. So go ahead and take a listen. Hi there, you're listening to Welcome to Being Alive, a podcast about the messy, beautiful, and occasionally heartbreaking world of relationships. I'm your host, Inez Cordoba, a couples therapist and certified sex therapist. I've spent thousands of hours helping couples, and now I get to be in conversation with you. Here's how it works. You send in your anonymous relationship questions, and I'll give you earnest and compassionate insight that's grounded in psychotherapy. Each episode, we'll wander through the stories you send in and together make meaning about what it really means to feel alive in your closest relationships. So, if you've ever wondered why love feels so complicated or how to make it a little less so, you're in the right place. Around here, we're making sense of love one tangent at a time. Hi, this is Inez Cordoba. I'm a full-time couples therapist in Massachusetts and also a certified sex therapist. And I'm here to answer anonymous questions that have been sent in. Today's question is about desire, which I find to be a fascinating, complex, and nuanced theme, so I'm really excited to talk about it. It also feels just aptly timed because I have been, for the last year now, putting together a course for couples trying to navigate differences in desire. So not only is this a really important and common topic, but it's one I've actually been thinking about really specifically and very deeply for the last year, but really throughout my work as it's such a common topic. So I'm excited to try to break it down a little bit for you today, and please send in more of your questions related to desire and desire differences between couples and partners. There's so much we could really try to tease apart and make meaning of together. And today's question reads, how do we deal with differences in libido? He is usually the one who initiates sex, and I'm often tired with household chores and raising the children. By the end of the day, all I want to do is rest. I'm not sure if I have a low libido or if I'm simply exhausted. What strategies can we use to manage this difference? And before I get too carried away deconstructing today's relationship question, let's try to add a little bit of context. I think that can really influence the lens through which we see this dilemma of desire differences. And so I can gather that they are probably a heterosexual couple, married. Phase of life seems to be raising young kids. And in general, there seems to be kind of a heteronormative gender roles at play. She mentions she's the one raising the kids and doing the household chores. I don't know if that means stay-at-home mom, so we won't assume that. And so we'll kind of keep all of that in the back of our minds as we unpack this question, but, we can imagine this in other kinds of relationship structures too. Differences in libido show up in all phases of relationship. But certainly raising young children, that's a place where this comes up a lot. So let's get into it. What I love about this question the most is that last sentence. What strategies can we use to manage this difference? That is such a nuanced and important way to frame this, which is it is a difference to be managed. It is like a paradox that we have to manage together, as opposed to entering into this question or this like plight or dilemma from a place of how can I make my partner different? What can I do to make them have the same libido I have, which is higher or lower? That is not the right entry point, because that alludes to a kind of wish for control over the other, that they be different in some way. If there's a wish that they have more libido, it can have a kind of pressure or even a smidge of coercion kind of baked into that. Or if it's a wish that my partner has lower libido, there can be a sense of shaming or judging the libido your partner does have. That can be such a tricky place to begin when couples come in with this difference. And if the entry point to it and the ask behind it is, what can I do to make my partner different? Or even if it's what can I do to make myself different, there's a kind of self-pressure, and pressure is so antithetical to desire that it's really not the place to begin. The beginning has to be, what are we going to do to manage this difference? Phrasing it in that way takes the pressure off. And what happens when there is less pressure is desire is more likely to emerge. And then people find that, ironically, it ends up bringing them closer together, closer to some place that they would like to be in terms of a shared, or if not similar, libido. There's this like entry point that they have of, I know how to meet you there now, without feelings of rejection or shame or guilt or coercion or pressure, all the other things that show up, all the gunk that sort of can come in and make desire and libido even harder to come by. So anyhow, I really value the way that this question was phrased. I think it's the best starting point to have this conversation, particularly because in a long-term committed relationship, it is inevitable that there will be moments and differences in libido, even if overall, by and large, somehow a couple has pretty matched libidos. At any given point, that can change, right? One person can get sick, one person can be in pain, one person can get distracted, can be going through grief, a loss of a parent, a loss of a pet, a change in job, travel, and all of a sudden they're not synced up, intimately. And they're going to have to manage that difference. They're going to have to not lose hope or assume that they're incompatible or, question the whole relationship or feel guilty or be ashamed or no. The question has to be, what strategy are we going to use to manage this difference during this time? We have different needs right now. So I really value that as our starting point. And if it wasn't starting there, that's where I would invite us to begin. But here we are. We're starting there. So I want to give you a couple of resources first. That is usually how I like to begin. So that way, if just right off the bat you want to put something, in your wish list or a book that you want to download, if you want to continue on this conversation outside of this podcast episode, then you have that. First, I always think of Esther Perel when it comes to this topic because she is often integrating topics of desire and libido and wanting and longing, playfulness, eroticism in all of her work. So interviews that she's doing, books she's writing, articles she's releasing, social media posts she's making. So immediately a great resource. You can go to YouTube, you can go to social media, you can check out her books. Mating in Captivity would be a great book to read on this topic. Another one is a book simply called Desire. The tagline is an inclusive guide to navigating libido differences in relationships, and it's by Dr. Lauren Fogel Mercy and Dr. Jennifer A. Vensil. I hope I've said their names correctly, but it's a sex-positive guide designed for readers of all genders and sexual orientations and relationship structures, and it helps couples understand and manage different libido levels without shame, and offering practical exercises so you can redefine how you look at intimacy. Dr. Lauren Fogel also has great content on social media. I think it's very smart. It's not clickbaity. It's not rage baity. It's not overgeneralized. It's smart, educational content. And she's certainly talking about things like desire and eroticism as well as other couples topics. So I would invite you to look there. The other thing I'll say quickly about resources before we move on to the question itself is, depending on what people unpack as kind of the root of their desire difference, say it is about grief or unspoken resentment or conflict that's leading to shutting down and turning away from their partner, or overwhelm from child rearing or chores, exhaustion, or maybe there's like physical pain that hasn't been addressed since postpartum. Whatever people might start to discover, oh, that is part of what's at the root of us not connecting intimately, then there would be a whole other series of resources that I would then suggest to that couple. This is just looking at desire very broadly. These two resources, Esther Perel and Dr. Lauren Fogel. So as you explore, what is this telling me about myself or our relationship that this difference exists? Like, one, yes, differences are really normal, but sometimes they also have something to tell us. And if that becomes something you want to address, you would be looking at whatever those root causes are, and that would open a door of a whole other layer of resources. So that's how we're going to unpack this question, actually. So one of the first things I like to explore with a couple when they're coming in wanting to talk about libido differences and how to manage it is really actually first take an overall assessment of the relationship. Like, how is their friendship doing? How is their communication doing? What's the structure of their lives? How busy is it? How much support do they have? How depleted are they? You know, like, what is filling their cup? Do they spend any time outside? Or are they so busy they're commuting and they're running from task to task with the kids, and they're so stressed out about the shape of their house? Or even more so, are their basic needs met? What's going on for them financially? How are their jobs? Like, kind of trying to take first an overall picture, because not that libido can't exist with a busy life, and sex and sexuality and physical connection can be actually a really lovely escape from life stressors. It can be framed that way and experienced that way. And also, it can absolutely get in the way of connecting. And so, trying to just take a snapshot overall, like, what's going on for everyone, like, if they have kids, are they in the immediate postpartum phase or kind of farther along? How many kids do they have? Who's working? When was the last time they had any time together? Sometimes, if a couple has young kids, they've been sleeping in separate beds for years, just to manage kind of how wild those early years are if you've got a couple toddlers, for example. So, whatever those circumstances are, it's really important for me to get a picture, because if I were to go in and take, say, like your generic internet advice, like, oh, go on a date night or try some lingerie, what else do people say? Like, spice it up, look for novelty, take a ceramic class together. But if they're struggling financially, someone is depressed, someone's about to start a new job, they need to move, they have a kid who's sick, circumstances that make it not possible to just kind of do those things, the quote unquote obvious things, then you kind of have to address first some of the circumstances. Again, you don't have to solve for all of them. It doesn't have to be that, well, until everything is really aligned, then you can focus on it. But I think naming all of that, getting a sense of those might be some of the things that are getting in your way, and how does your physical relationship then become a source of escape from those stressors, or a way to fill your cup, or to feel more in your body, or to feel less alone. And remember that you're not alone, that you have this partner in this world, and that sometimes being like snuggled in each other's arms is kind of the only thing you can do as you ride out some other life stressor. Great, that's the conversation the couple can have. But again, first sort of addressing, like, getting a snapshot of the circumstances. If it comes to be that they feel very disconnected, there's almost no friendship there, they're hardly talking, they only speak in logistics to one another, then it's like, well, sex is one way to reconnect, but some couples may find that reconnecting first, like feeling like a couple and not just like roommates or co-parents, then sort of paves the way to feel like how they're going to manage those differences in libido is more obvious, right? So after taking a snapshot of the context of their lives, and also just in general, what is the health of their relationship? How close are they feeling? How much unspoken resentment or frustration, anger is lingering? Then it's more clear where to begin. I'm also just checking at the beginning to see if any of those differences in libido have to do with something like physical, say pain, or medically that could be going on. So if what's interrupting their ability to connect is something related to the obvious one, and kind of in the conversation in the zeitgeist right now, a lot is like menopause or postpartum, but could be something like erectile dysfunction or body image issues, or something that's really rooted in the body that actually needs some outside individual support. Maybe somebody needs to see a urologist or a pelvic floor therapist, or change their medications if their medication is impacting their libido. Then you can give a couple of million strategies, but until you address the individual factors, you're not going to get a lot of traction. So I'm also looking for those things with a couple, what else explains why you might be struggling to connect? And behind that question is also exploring the difference between arousal and libido, because libido is like the desire, sort of urge to want to be sexual. Arousal is how responsive is the body. And it's important to not use those interchangeably, but to use them accurately. So somebody may have libido, like I have a desire to want to feel more erotic and playfully and sensually connected with my body and with my partner, but my body's not responsive. Nothing seems to turn me on. I don't feel that flush. I just, like, nothing happens. I'm struggling to orgasm, let's say. Again, like, that's another example of, as you get to the bottom of what is really going on here, if it's not an issue of difference in libido so much as there's an arousal issue, that's a whole different conversation you're having, right? If I'm not sleeping very well, maybe that's going to impact my arousal levels, our ability to get aroused. If our sexual life isn't very satisfying, then really it's a conversation about perhaps more like technique. How do we have sex? How do we touch each other? In what ways and in what places? Do I know that about myself? Have I taught you what I like? What if I don't know that about myself? What if I used to know, but I have a really different body now, and so I haven't spent the time to get to know myself in this different, newer body for whatever reason? It could be new or different, right? Postpartum is a common example. Or maybe like following a cancer diagnosis, right? And maybe a round of chemotherapy, your body just feels different, perhaps. Like there's so many circumstances that might require you to get to know yourself again, and needing to do that in order to then show your partner this is what would be satisfying now. So there's this physical and arousal lens when we're thinking about desire differences too that we have to take in. You're thinking about lifestyle differences. If those examples of maybe you're not sleeping in the same room anymore, maybe one of you snores or has the overnight shift, so you're just not even in the same rhythm of your day to day. It's not clear when you would even find each other to connect. If you really are so exhausted from raising children and you're in that phase of life of young kids and giving a lot to your career, then yeah, then that's going to be where all your playful and creative energy is going, right? Perhaps towards your career, towards your hobby, towards a project, towards raising your children. This is something Esther Perel says, like, there's plenty of libido, it's just going somewhere else. And is that okay? Can the relationship tolerate that for 6 months or a couple years even, or not? And I'm not saying then that couple decides not to have sex, but that there's this understanding that there actually is a lot of libido and vibrancy in life in the relationship. It just exists in a lot of different forms right now. And so that couple sex life for a period of time might just look like maintenance sex. It might look like something we schedule and we make sure happens because we know it's an important through line to keep us connected. But maybe it's not the hottest, most novel sex we've ever had, but we believe we'll come back to that. Just right now, what's so important is this other thing we're trying to get off the ground. So really inviting the couple to look at this difference from so many different angles, and again, to see it as something that gets managed, not a problem necessarily that you solve. Not to say do nothing about it, but that when it's seen as a problem, I think everybody starts to get really discouraged versus seeing it as a really multifaceted, nuanced conversation, then actually more solutions, more creative ways of how we're going to tackle this together come to mind. Another way to do that is to reframe what is sex. That's one of my favorite conversations to kind of instigate with a couple is like, well, what are you defining as like, we're not having sex anymore? What, penetrative sex and orgasm? Okay, but there are so many other ways to be intimate and to feel desire and eroticism and sensuality, and when it becomes really, really narrowly defined, that's when sex becomes experienced as like a checkbox. Did we do it or did we not? When was the last time we did it? That's so unsexy. Yeah, another thing Esther Perel often says, or I've heard her say, is no one has more sex talking about the sex they're not having, right? So just kind of thinking about it as, oh, it was 3 times this month. Okay, for some couples that's a lot, and for some that's absolutely not enough. But when we define it in these quantities, it's a really narrow and kind of boring perspective on sex and sexuality. But if you broaden it, right, what does it mean to be playful and to flirt and to feel your touch and to feel warmth and to feel a flush in my body when you're near me? All of a sudden, there is a thread of eroticism in the relationship that now can exist, no matter how busy you are and no matter how stressed you are. It also makes it much more likely and easier to turn towards one another and have more sex together because there is a thread that sort of holds you together versus this kind of binary, it's there or it's not. Are we doing it or are we not doing it? Is tonight a good night or it's not a good night? And it's just on or off. And that hot cold, I think, can be really hard to switch in our minds of, I'm in life mode with you, we're texting about who's picking up the kids and what should we get for dinner, and, don't forget to text your mom back about our plans this weekend. And then all of a sudden we're supposed to pivot and just feel sexy with one another. No, but if there is a thread where in between all of that, there is a playfulness and a lingering kiss and all of those things exist without pressure. They're not, oh, I gave you this lingering kiss because I'm hoping you'll then do something with me later. No, they have no pressure attached to them. They just exist in and of themselves. Now you have a relationship that's much more vibrant and flirty. And that's that oxymoron. That's the paradox a couple needs to figure out how to manage, is how do we invite more playfulness, eroticism, aliveness, desire, libido, arousal, but without pressure, without the sense that because I let you kiss me in this lingering way this morning, that means we're having sex tonight, right? This if this, then that. Now all of a sudden I don't even want you to kiss me for this long time in the morning because I don't know if I'm going to be in the mood tonight. And since I don't know if I will be and I don't want to turn you down and disappoint you, I'm just going to stop it all before it even begins. But now there's nothing in our shared coffer of aliveness. Now there is no lingering kiss or makeout or sweet caress. And so that's when it becomes super important to have what we would call in the therapy realm non-demand touch for touch's sake. I snuggle you and it is not sexual, but it might be erotic, right? Because the eroticism is really just about that sense of aliveness between us, that, I feel more in my body when you're near me. That feeling, that's that feeling that people get early on in relationships, that honeymoon phase of I feel all my senses so awake when I'm around you. I feel giddy and excited. And so how to bring that in, that my senses are alive when I'm around you without feeling this pressure about sex. And it's actually in having more eroticism and aliveness that sex is more likely. So that's the paradox. When I take the pressure off, it's more likely to happen. But I have to truly take the pressure off myself and pressure off my partner. Then from that space, we can meet each other. And if we have more broadly defined what is libido, arousal, desire, eroticism, sensuality, sexuality, sex itself, now we have this huge buffet of options to choose from in which we are connected about. And now you actually don't feel that different from me because we have so many ways in which we can stay connected versus what I see happen is couples start to define it very narrowly. It's penetrative sex and it ends with at least one orgasm, and usually it's the guy, and that's your heteronormative, okay, done. Yeah, if that's all that you're defining as how healthy is our sex life, I mean, yeah, where do you go from there, right? Better to redefine it and see there's so many ways that you feel like my sexual partner, and it doesn't just include that. I could say so much more about this subject, but that's me answering it from the frame that this person wrote in. So if you want to write in a more detailed question about a desire difference that you've experienced or are experiencing, please do, because I would love to talk about this more. I gave a bunch of kind of random examples and anecdotal answers just to kind of give a broad breadth of how does a couple talk about this? What would it look like if they were talking about this in couples therapy with their sex therapist? And this was actually a really aptly timed question because I've been thinking about this question really deeply for the last year. I've been putting together a couples course, this 10-part course where a couple could together ask these kinds of questions to themselves. Where is this coming from? What's the context of our lives? What's the health of our relationship and our friendship? Do we know how we like to flirt and play? Do we know how to talk about eroticism? Can we more broadly define it? This is what I'm sort of bringing to the table because I think it's really valuable for a couple to get into this question and then to get into it again and again and again throughout their long-term relationship. So I'll go ahead and leave that here for now. I'm so excited to keep working through these anonymous questions that are being written in. And thank you for listening. This is Inez Cordoba, and you've been listening to Welcome to Being Alive. Thank you for listening to Welcome to Being Alive. I'm your host, Inez Cordoba. I hope today gave you something to think about or maybe even try out in your own love life. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow the show, leave a review, or share it with friends. Remember, you can submit questions through our website at welcometobeinganive.com and follow us on all socials at Welcome to Being Alive. The show is brought to you by Cordoba Couples Therapy and the Northampton Center for Couples Therapy. And a big thank you to From the Woods for our theme song, Apple Bottom Boogaloo. Until next time, remember, being alive means loving, learning, and sometimes just surviving together. Thanks, guys!